So we'll allow those feet to be just underneath the hips, and allowing the toes to point forwards. If you want to close the eyes, by all means do. Just allowing the breath to come and go nice and gently. And as we breathe nice and deeply, we'll allow that breath to flow deep and full into the rib cage. Thanks, Rachel. So allowing our weight to gently shift over the front of the feet and into the back of the feet. Taking it through those two extremes. Just taking a moment to really zone yourself into your body, how your body's feeling today. Lovely. And then we'll find that place where our weight feels as though it's right in the centre of the 2 feet. And then as we breathe out, we'll allow those feet to gently engage upwards. So the arches of the feet are just going to gently lift, as though you're lifting the arches of your feet up into your legs. And we'll allow there to be a softness into the ankles and a softness into the knees. And we'll find a sense of softness into the hips. And then let's just allow the pelvis to feel like a bucket of water filled to the top. We'll gently tip some water out the front of the bucket. And we'll gently tip some water out the back of the bucket. Taking it through those 2 extremes. And then we'll find that place where it feels as though our bucket of water is absolutely level, not tipping out of the front or out of the back. And when we find that place, let's allow ourselves to grow really tall. Head floats up towards the space above us. And then we'll allow those shoulders to lift. And we'll roll the shoulders gently back and down. And again, the shoulders can lift and roll gently back and down. Doing that a few times, gently rolling the shoulders back and down. Keep that going for me. Lovely. Allowing your breath to come and go nice and gently. Morning, Francis. Morning, Vicky. Morning, Yvonne. Welcome, welcome. So the shoulders ease towards one another and they sink down towards the tailbone. As we glide the shoulder blades towards the tailbone, let's switch into those pelvic floor muscles. So we'll allow the pelvic floor muscles to lift on up and in, and at the same time you'll probably feel a nice sense of connection through the core muscles. With that sense of connection in place, let's take a deep breath in and allow the right arm to float forwards and up. Breathing in as the arm floats back down, we'll change over to the other side. Lovely. So changing arms each time. That's it, lovely. And then we'll allow those arms to release down by our sides. And take a gentle breath and allow the right ear to dip down towards the right shoulder. And we'll allow the head to gently lift up and over to the opposite side, letting the head release down. And again the head lifts up and over to the right side. And again up and over to the second side. And then we bring the head into the centre and allow the head to gently rotate as if we were looking over our right shoulder. And bringing the head back into the centre, rotating round to the opposite side. And let's do that again on each side. So we'll let those shoulders melt down the back. And then as the head comes into the centre, let's allow the chin to tuck in slightly. And we'll just gently start to roll down through the spine, coming down through the vertebrae bit by bit, piece by piece. Taking a nice deep breath there, and then breathing out as we roll up through the spine. We'll allow the head to come on top. We'll lift the shoulders, roll the shoulders gently back and down, and allow both arms to float forwards and up. And we're breathing in as the arms float back down. And again, let's release through the top of the head, rolling down through the spine, coming down through the vertebrae. Taking a nice deep breath there. And breathing out as we roll back up through the spine. Head comes on top, we lift the shoulders, roll the shoulders back and down, both arms float forwards and up. Breathing in as the arms float back down, soften through the knees and let the arms gently open out to the side. Lovely, good. And again, releasing through the top of the head, rolling through the spine. Nice deep breath there. Breathing out as we roll up through the spine. As the head comes on top, we lift the shoulders, roll the shoulders back and down, both arms float forwards and up. We breathe in as we float the arms back down, soften through the knees, let the arms open out to the side. Lovely. As you do that, the tailbone is descending down. It's as if you're sliding down the wall, as if your back's attached to the wall. Good. And then release the head. Start to peel your spine away from the wall bit by bit, piece by piece. There may be a softening in the knees. You might even want to track the hands down the fronts of the legs. That's all good. Rolling up through the spine, we'll let the shoulders lift. Roll the shoulders back and down, both arms float forwards and up. Breathing in as the arms float back down. From there, take that little softness in the knees. Yeah, good. Shoulders descend down the back. And coming back to standing, lovely. Let's take our side bends from there, up and over to the right side. Right fingertips glide down the side of the leg. Beautiful, Janet, that's it, lovely. Coming through the centre, up and over to the opposite side. And if you feel ready to add in that top arm, by all means do. Adding in the top arm, bringing a little lift up and over. Coming through the centre, up and over to the opposite side. And again, coming up and over. Gorgeous. Once more on each side. Lovely. As we come into the centre, we're going to draw the fingertips in towards one another. We're going to look to keep the pelvis really nice and stable and still, gliding the shoulders down the back. Take a breath and allow the rib cage to rotate gently round. So we're going to have a little bit of softness in the knees, so the knees aren't locked. The pelvis isn't going to come with us. We're going to keep the pelvis really nice and stable and still. So if I've got golfers watching, they tend to twist their hips with them because it's part of their swing action. We don't want to do that here. We're going to keep the pelvis really nice and stable and still. Well done. From there, let's take those hands out in front of us as if we've got a tray in each hand. Shoulders gliding down the back, strong through the core as we allow the arms to just open out to the side. Breathing in as the arms return. And gently opening out through the arms. Shoulders glide down the back. Breathe in as we return. And again, shoulders gliding down the back, opening out through the arms. Beautiful. Just one more like that. And then we'll allow that right hand to gently open out and around the head. So around and above the head. And circling around and down. Changing to the other side. Circle around and above the head. And around and down. Lovely. Good. Let's release the arms down by our sides, and then we're just going to take some work to open up through that nerve there. So allowing the arms to have a little shake out, and we'll allow ourselves to find some energy through that right hand. Flexing through the right heel of the hand, allowing the fingertips to point forwards, and then we'll point the fingertips back behind us. Good. And then again pointing forwards. Good. Once again pointing back, pointing forwards, keeping the fingertips pointing forwards, working through the outside of the hand. We're going to open the arm out to the side, breathing in as we float back down. And again we allow the arm to open out and softening back down. Lovely. Seeing if you can release that tension through the shoulder, so we won't lift the shoulder, we'll just keep that shoulder gliding down. There may be a little point where you get to where you think, ooh, that feels a bit niggly. Just go to that place if you get the pins and needles in your arms or whatever. And then we'll give that a little shake out. Good, well done. Let's change over to the other side. Fingertips pointing forwards, drop that shoulder down the back, and then the fingertips point back. And then they point forwards. And again, fingertips point back, pointing forwards. Just one more. And with the fingertips pointing forwards, we can work into the outside of the hand, gently opening out to the side and softening down. Lovely. Good, last one. And give that a little shake out. Well done. Good. Let's take a little bit of balance work. So we'll start by allowing ourselves to take a rise. Let's just take a moment to, again, shift our weight forwards and back from the front of the foot to the back of the foot and start to become really aware of the balls of the feet. Lovely. We'll start to think about pushing into the big toe. So just as we transfer the weight, let's think about squeezing something into the floor with your big toe. And as we start to feel more confident with that, the heels will lift a little more. Now, what I want you to start to think about is as you come back down, let's not rock all the way back. Let's just allow ourselves to rock to that point where the weight's back in the centre of the foot. So we're lifting all the way up through the big toe, and then as we come back down, just into the centre of the foot. Again, we lift up, coming into the centre of the foot, and again coming up, pushing to the big toe, and centre of the foot. Lovely. Just one more. And hold it for me there. Lovely. Finding the weight in the centre of the foot. Hips are nice and level with one another. We'll allow the right foot to gently lift. Gorgeous. Good. And floating that foot down, we'll change over to the other side. Lovely. So I've got my hands on my hips to see if I can feel if I start to tip the pelvis at all. I'm trying to keep the pelvis really nice and level, nice and still. Lovely. That's it. Great job. Well done. So we'll allow the right foot to lift. We'll allow that knee to gently open out to the side. We'll draw the knee back to the centre and coming back down. Good. So as we do that, just take an extra check that as the knee opens out, the pelvis doesn't come with us. That's going to twist our knee. So we want to see if we can keep the hips pointing towards the front and just allow the knee to open as if it were the door opening on the door frame. Good. Oh, hello. Sometimes balance isn't so good. Let's just see if from there we can just allow that leg to stretch a little way away from us, just behind us. I've found the wall, that's no help, is it? Just stretching away behind us, and then we'll draw the leg in. We allow the knee to lift, opening out to the side, drawing that knee back in and stretching the leg away. Let's add some arms. We'll lift the arms. Knee opens out as the arms open out. Chest and hips stay pointing forwards. Coming back to the centre and stretch the leg behind us. And drawing the leg back in, we lift. Knee opens out to the side. Coming back to the centre. Stretching the leg and the arm away. And bringing the feet back together. Lovely. Let's take a roll down and we'll start to extend that into a push-up. So we're going to be near the back of your mat if you're using a mat, so you've got some length in front of you. That's it, lovely. Taking a nice deep breath. Once again, chin tucks towards the chest, head becomes nice and heavy. We start to roll gently down through the spine, softening through the knees. Take a nice deep breath there. And then breathing out as we roll up through the spine. So some of us don't like to go all the way to the floor. So what we'll do is we'll continue with that roll down. We'll even add in a little squat. We'll allow ourselves to come up to standing and add that little rise in. For those of us that are confident coming to the floor and coming up off the floor, we'll roll down through the spine. We'll walk the hands forwards. And we'll take the hands wider than the shoulders as we take our push-up exercise. Chest lowers to the space between the hands, breathing out as we push up and away from the floor. We walk the hands in and we roll up through the spine. And when we get there, we take that little squat. And then we take the rise. Good, lovely. And again, rolling down through the spine. Now, as we've talked about before, the further forward we take our hands, the more of a challenge it's going to be for us. So it might be that we're in that kind of box position. Check for me as you lower down that your chest is going between your hands. Your eyes aren't going between your hands, it's your chest. Breathing out as you push up and away, walking the hands in, and we roll up through the spine. Taking that little squat there. And taking the rise. Good. And again, let's roll down through the spine. Releasing through the top of the head. So the other thing that I see sometimes is that people hinge back into their hips and sort of soften down into their thighs. We're not coming into child's pose. The weight's coming quite far forwards. Tucking the toes under, rolling up through the spine. And of course, if you want to, you can take your full push-up there, where the toes tuck under and the knees lift away from the floor. You all know what a full push-up looks like, so I don't need to demonstrate that. Rolling down through the spine. Walking the hands gently forwards. Hands nice and wide, and again, if you want to tuck the toes under and lift the knees, now is your chance. Let the head be really nice and heavy as you roll up. This is going to be our last one. So here we'll do our final rise, and then we'll allow ourselves to roll all the way down to the floor. Take that final push up. So if you're thinking, I don't know, I might be able to do a full push-up. Now's your chance to do it. Have a little see if we can get that final push-up in. And then we'll sit back to child's pose from there. So we're sitting back onto our heels. Lengthening the arms out in front of us. Resting the forehead. And if you need to adjust your camera so that you can still see me, now you're on the floor, now's your chance to do that. Yeah, good. Let's take a moment to really get into our spine. So we'll allow the hands to come underneath the shoulders and the knees to come underneath the hips. And we'll take our thread in the needle from here. So we'll scoop in through the tummy. We're going to take a breath, we're going to allow the right hand to lift, and we'll weave the right hand through the gap between the hand and the knee. And we'll breathe in as the arm returns. And then we'll change over to the other side. The opposite arm feeds through. We breathe in as we draw the arm back in. Lovely. So if you want to, you can add that opening before you thread through. So the arm gently lifts and threads all the way through. Breathing in as we draw the arm back. And we lift up for the sky. And feed through. Good. Keep that going for me. Changing sides each time. I'm just going to see who I've got on Facebook. Hello, Mike Pennell. How exciting. Christian, you're back in. Good boy. Carol Swift, welcome. Welcome, 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 guys. So we'll take one more on each side. And making sure you're finishing off on your second side. Lovely. And if you need to, just take a moment to sit back onto your heels from there and give those wrists a moment to jiggle, to wriggle. Wriggle or jiggle, up to you. That's it. Good. And then we'll do a little bit more work on hands and knees. We're going to do our swimming exercise. So if hands and knees are not really working out for you and you want to come onto a lying position instead, you can take the leg work in the swimming exercise from your lying position instead. So we've got the hands underneath our shoulders, we've got our knees underneath our hips. We've got the tailbone stretching away and we're strengthening through the core muscles. Shoulders are gliding down the back. We'll take a breath, we'll glide the right leg away from us. And breathing in as the leg returns. And then let's change over to the other leg. Lengthening the leg out and away. Now there's a little squeeze through the bottom as we stretch out through that leg. As the leg extends away, if you feel ready to, opposite arm lengthens out and away. We breathe in as the arm and the leg return. Keep that going for me. Changing legs and arm each time. Lovely. And then we're going to add on, so we're going to lengthen the arm and the leg away. We're going to breathe in as the leg returns, and then we'll let that knee open out to the side. And draw the leg back in. Changing over to the other side, lengthening the leg and the arm away. Drawing the leg and the arm back in, and then that same knee opens out to the side. And we're changing sides each time. So I saw this on an American fitness program, and she called it the fire hydrant. Every class I've taught this in have said it's more like the dog having a wee up the lamppost, but you can call it whichever you want, but this is the move. So we're getting into a different part of the bottom as we work this out to the side. Look to be really stable through the opposite leg. So there is a tendency to just lean onto the side. See if you can stabilise and keep your weight really central as you take that knee out to the side. This is our final one. And we'll allow ourselves to come all the way down to the floor. When you get there, we'll take the elbows nice and wide. Let the fingers point forwards. You're going to rest one ear down onto the floor. Feels nice. We're not going to stay there for too long, but just take a moment to allow yourself to really connect into your core muscles. So you're going to switch up through the belly button, you're going to connect in through the core muscles, and at the same time, without clenching through the buttocks, you're going to stretch your tailbone away from you. So just by engaging those core muscles, we can lengthen the tailbone. Allowing the elbows to be nice and wide there. And they're just resting onto the floor. So we're not going to push into the hands. We're going to allow the hands to just be resting down. We take a breath. And as we breathe out, we lift the head, look to the floor, and then turn the head in the opposite direction. Rest the opposite ear down. Nice deep breath. We lift, rotate the head, and rest on down. So let's keep that going Finding that nice sense of connection through the tummy, and we're changing the facing each time. Keep that going for me. I'm going to keep facing you guys so you can hear what I'm saying. We'll keep changing from side to side. If that feels as though it's quite intense on the neck, if it feels as though it's aggravating things, keep the nose pointing to the floor instead. So from here, we'll start to make this a slightly bigger movement. We'll start to bring in our movement through the upper torso. So the shoulders are going to glide down the back, the head's going to extend out and away, and we start to allow the breastbone to gently lift. And we breathe in as we float back down. So if you're changing sides each time, you're just going to allow that to be slightly accentuated. I want you to make sure that you're not pressing the hands down into the floor, but you are letting them just hover. So maybe even have a little try of that out, letting the arms just hover an inch or so away from the floor. And this time, if you want to, just glide those shoulders down the back as the breastbone lifts and softening forwards. Last one here. And let's bring the hands underneath the shoulders. We'll just sit back onto our heels, lengthen the arms out in front of us and rest the forehead. Breathe nice and gently there. From there, just take a moment to take a little side bend. So we'll walk the hands just over to the right a little bit. The left hand's going to keep reaching. So as we reach through the left hand, the left hip pushes back even further. Nice sense of length through both, all the way along the side of the body. And then we walk the hands across. Coming to the other side, right hand reaches, and you feel as though you're pulling down through the right hip. And you get that nice long stretch down the side of the body. I love this stretch. And then coming up to the centre. Now we're going to take our spine twists from here. So let's find a position for our legs to be in where you're nice and symmetrical. Some of us are happy on our knees, and that allows us to be really lengthened through the torso. If you rather be sitting with the legs out in front of you, legs slightly apart, knees bent, feet together, whichever works for you. Just to watch out, if you're in this kneeling position, if you're slightly hypermobile, we tend to do this. So we really overarch into the back and the tailbone's sticking out behind us. We're just going to tuck the tailbone under and feel as though you're descending down through the spine, and that'll really switch in through your core muscles. So just have a moment to feel that you're really descending down. If this position isn't working for you and you'd rather be up high, by all means go for that. So we're drawing the fingertips together, the shoulders are gliding down the back. That's it, Mo, nice. Strengthening in through the core. Take a deep breath, we'll allow the rib cage to gently rotate round to the right side. And we're breathing in as we return back to the centre. And then we rotate round to the opposite side. And the shoulders are gliding down the back. Good, keeping that breath flowing. Lovely. Notice if your pelvis starts to do a little shift from side to side, or even a kind of one hip shifting forwards and one hip shifting back, seeing if you can keep them really nice and level and still. Lovely. And then let's just have a little play with the arms. We'll allow the elbows to go wide, letting those shoulders glide down the back. Rib cage nice and soft. So this will challenge those shoulders. Shoulders will probably start to want to lift up towards the ears. We're going to keep them gliding down. And then just for good measure, we'll take the arms nice and long. Opening out, see if that puts more pressure on the shoulders. Notice if suddenly your shoulders are starting to lift towards the ears. We'll see if we can keep them gliding down. Lovely. And releasing there. Come to sit on your bottom. Allow the feet to come in front of you. Let the knees bend. Hands come slightly behind us. Lift the chest as if you're sunbathing. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So as you lift the chest, drop the shoulders down and let the breastbone lift without knocking back through the head. We're going to drop the knees over to one side. And come through the centre, knock the knees over to the other side. And again, releasing the knees over to one side. So this should feel quite nice in the hip. Especially any of us have done lots of even possible. Good, finishing there. Now, we're going to allow the knees to dip over all the way to the right side. And then if we can, we're going to see about lifting up on top of the legs, on top of the hips. So we're going to see if we can square the hips off. Not everyone likes this position, I know. And if you don't, then you can either go with the legs wide, if that works better for you. That's it, Gwen. Yeah, nice. So we're lifting nice and tall there. It might take a few moments to just let that outer hip drop down. And then if you want to, you can allow yourself to ease forwards. Maybe, maybe not. Take a deep breath and we'll lift up nice and tall. And then we'll let the knees tip over to the other side. And again, dropping that hip down towards the floor. We're lifting really nice and tall and allowing ourselves to ease gently forwards. And then lifting up nice and tall. Well done, guys. Let's swing ourselves around. Now I'm going to swing myself around so I've got the length of the mat behind me, so I can take that capital C exercise. So we'll allow the feet to be just hip distance apart. We'll let the hands come around the backs of the thighs. We're going to lengthen up really nice and tall through the spine, and we'll let the shoulders glide down the back. So we're squeezing in through the tummy from here. And we're taking that curve into the lower back. And we're breathing in as we lengthen up nice and tall. Good. So, squeezing in through the tummy as if you're trying to scoop away there and curving gently down. Lengthening nice and tall. So if we feel happy to, we'll allow the arms to lengthen out and away from us. So the arms are reaching, we don't need to hold on to the thighs anymore. And we're breathing in as we lift up nice and tall. Let's take a few more just as we start to really switch into how far we can curve ourselves back before we get that shuddering in the tummy, before we get that doming in the tummy, or before the feet lose contact with the floor. So we'll keep the feet grounded. And we'll just add on that little breastbone lift that we did earlier. So let's allow the arms to open and we'll lift the chest for the sky. And then curling gently down. And again, we lift up, lift the breastbone for the sky. One more like that. And we'll allow ourselves to curl all the way down to the floor. All the way down. Now if you're thinking curling down to the floor is not going to work for me and my spine, then come down in a way that suits you better. When you get there, just allow yourself to release out and surrender to the floor. A few nice deep breaths, let go. Shoulders can release into the ground, arms release down by your sides. Let the pelvis rest really nice and heavy into the ground. And we'll take a few nice deep breaths and we'll allow the head to gently roll from side to side. And then we'll allow the head to come into the centre and we'll tuck the chin in slightly. So we feel as though we've got that lovely sense of length across the back of the neck. Sometimes when we're in this position, depending on how our spine rests normally, you may find that your chin is jutting upwards in this lying position, which isn't terribly comfortable for anyone. If that's the case, just pop a cushion underneath your head and you might be able to find that you'll get a bit more length through the back of the neck. So take a nice deep breath for me there. As you breathe out, we're going to bring the feet onto the floor. We're going to allow the knees to bend. Good. From there, we'll just rock the pelvis. Lower back sinks into the floor, tip the pelvis, and we'll exaggerate the curve into the lower back, taking it through those two extremes. That's lovely. Good. And we'll find that place where it feels as though our hip bone and our pubic bone are level with one another. Let's take a nice deep breath from there, and we'll draw in through the pelvic floor, feeling as though we've got that nice connection through those core muscles. Take a deep breath for me and allow the right knee to lift, to hover above the hip socket, bringing the calf to a 90-degree angle. Now, gently circle the right thigh bone for me. Breathing out for half the circle, breathing in to complete the circle. As you do that, you might want to put your hands on your hips. You might even want to put your hands on your hips and your thumb on your rib cage, and just check that there's no wobble. So we're not tipping the hips from side to side, we're keeping them nice and stable. We're not flaring through the rib cage. Let's change the direction of the circle. Now, hold it for me there. Keep that knee hovering above the hip socket. We're just going to stretch the leg, but we're going to see if we can get the toe to stretch as far up towards the sky as we can. And then we'll bend the knee. We're going to take 3 more like that. Stretching the toe up towards the sky and bending at the knee. Good. 2 more like that. So we're going to really lengthen the hamstring, work the quad a little, still working through the core because the back is in neutral. This time, as we lengthen the leg up for the sky, we'll keep it there. Now let's see, keep in neutral, how much of a leg circle we can make. 3, 2, again rib cage and hips stay level and still. 1, change the direction, back the other way. 3, 2, 1. Nice job. Bring that leg in, give it a little hug, press the back into the floor, and then just float that foot down and return back to neutral spine. So hip bone and pubic bone are level with one another once again. Draw in through the pelvic floor, find that connection, rib cage down. The opposite knee lifts. And we'll take that pattern again, gently circling. Breathing out for half the circle, breathing in to complete the circle. And then let's change the direction of the circle. And then again, let's allow that knee to be hovering above the hip socket. Toe stretches for the sky. And we bend at the knee. So seeing if you can keep that neutral spine position. I really want the neutral spine position to be maintained. Yeah, so if you do need to move the knee a little bit further away so it stretches a bit further away from you, that's fine. Or maybe keep the knee there and just lengthen it to the point where you feel as though the back's going to press into the floor. Hold this one up there. So you've got that, maybe it's a little bend, maybe it's fully extended, it's a marvellous thing, whichever it is, and then we circle. And then we circle back the other way. Last one. And again, bring that left knee in. Give that left knee a really good hug for me there. As you press the lower back into the floor, this time we'll slide the right leg away from us. So allow that leg to really glide and lengthen away. Letting the rib cage descend down into the floor, allow the back to press down into the ground. Lovely. Now squeeze in through the core and allow the right knee to come in, stretch the left leg away. Good. Squeeze in through the core, draw that left knee in, give both the legs a good hug. Now, we're going to have a little explore of our two-legged 100 position here, which doesn't suit all of us, but suits some of us. So this seems to be a nice transition for me. So we squeeze in through the tummy and really find a sense of connecting into those core muscles, pelvic floor as well. So we take a deep breath and we allow the arms to rest down by our side. We're using our core muscles to keep the legs in place. Take a deep breath. You may need to bring the knees a little bit further away from you to find a challenge. And the challenge might be with the knees just a little bit away from you. If you can, we'll get to that place where the knees are hovering above the hip socket and the calf is at a 90-degree angle. Keep that lower back pressing into the floor. We're breathing. Shoulders are gliding down the back, down into the ground. Chin's tucked in nicely. If, once you get to this two-legged 100 position, you feel that there's a shuddering in the tummy, you feel as though there's a strain in the back, I'd rather you worked with one leg lifted. So place that left foot down and keep the right leg lifted for me. Take a deep breath in from here. As we breathe out, we're going to stretch the right leg away from us, lengthening that leg out and away. And we'll breathe in as the leg returns. If you're working with two legs lifted, we'll change legs each time. If you're working with one leg lifted, we'll do 5 on that side and then we'll change over to the other side. So we'll keep breathing, we'll keep the belly button squeezing down, really drawing the back to the floor, keep the belly button scooping towards the back. Lovely. When your body's had enough, by all means bring the knees in and give them a hug. I don't want there to be any strain in your lower back. That's it, nice, well done. Now I've got to tell you the truth here, I've completely lost count. I'm thinking we'll bring the knees in and we'll give them a little hug. So let's gently circle the back, the knees can circle so you feel as though you get a nice massage in the floor with the back. We'll take our scissor action from there, which is really similar to, is a similar action-ish. The start is the same anyway. So we're squeezing in through the tummy and we'll allow ourselves to find that modified 100 position. So we can allow ourselves to find that place that works for us, either with one leg lifted or with two legs lifted. We take a deep breath, the right toe dips down as if we were testing the temperature of some water. We breathe in as the leg lifts. If you're working with two legs lifted, change legs each time. If you're working with one leg lifted, do 5 on that first side, then change sides. So how to challenge it from here. You can allow as one leg is lifting, the other one lowers. So they start to sort of cross one another in that scissor action. The other challenge you can give yourself is to open up those knees a little. Now that's to say that they open up and they stay opened up, just in the same way as we did when we changed our knee circles to be in full leg extension circles. So we've got that scoop in through the tummy. Notice if that starts to make your tummy dome. We don't want that. We want the belly to be scooping down, the back to be pressing into the floor. Again, I haven't counted, but this is definitely even. So we'll bring the knees in towards the chest and we'll give them a good hug. Nice work, guys, well done. So, allow the feet to rest down onto the floor, bring them down one at a time. And we'll allow the arms to lengthen up towards the sky. Let's drop the shoulders down into the ground, so we really sink the shoulder blades into the floor. And the palms are facing one another. Now, at this point, I want your spine to be in neutral, hips and pubic bone to be level, nice squeeze in through the tummy. So let's take some little circles here, drawing circles on the ceiling, breathing out for half the circle, breathing in to complete the circle. Take a moment to let the shoulder blades really sink down into the ground, let the rib cage be soft. Now, if you want to, one knee can lift to hover above the hip socket. If you want to, from there you press the lower back into the floor and allow 2 legs to lift. Keep circling those arms for me. If you want to from there, the right leg can stretch away as the arms circle. We breathe in as the leg returns and we complete the circle. If you're working with 2 legs lifted, change legs each time. If you're working with 1 leg lifted, do 5 on that first side. Then we'll change legs. See, it's gone quiet because I'm trying to remember to count now. So, if you're working with 1 leg lifted, change over to the other leg now. Those of us that are working with 2 legs lifted, we'll keep going with the legs, but we're all going to change the arm circles. So allow the circles to change direction. So if you were lifting upwards first, you're now going to go downwards first with the arms. It might feel a bit quirky even, that you've changed the direction of the arm, but keeping the legs the same. And finishing off there, bring the knees in towards the chest. Well done. Placing one foot down onto the floor and then put the other foot back down. Bring the feet together, bring the knees together, let the arms go nice and wide. We're squeezing in through the tummy. Take a deep breath, let the knees tip over to one side. Just a little tip, and then with this power from your tummy, bring the pelvis back onto the floor. Let the knees tip over to the opposite side, and then allowing the pelvis to come back onto the floor. So we're using that core work to draw the pelvis back each time. If you want a little bit more challenge, as you tip the knees over, just allow the leg to lengthen out and away. And drawing back. Tipping over to the side, the leg draws out and away. And coming back in. So each time you'll glue your feet back together. Keep it going for me. If you want a little bit of a core challenge, as you take this spine rotation, you can allow both knees to lift and allow the knees to tip over to the side. So as before, knees are glued together. Don't let the knees slide across one another. Once they start to slide, you've gone far enough. Finishing off on that second side and allow the feet to come down. Let's take a little hamstring stretch before we go into our shoulder bridge. So we'll lengthen that right leg up for the sky and we'll take a hold around the back of the thigh. Some of us find that our arms aren't long enough for this job, in which case we'll wrap a band around the foot and we'll hold on to the handles at the ends of the band. Good. That way, once you've got the band in place, you can just allow the neck to really relax. You can let the shoulders glide down the back. And we breathe nice and gently. Seeing if that can ease a little more with each breath. Good. And then just to release out through those glutes, we'll take that right foot across the left knee. And we'll allow the right knee to fall open to the side, making that triangular window. So you've got that triangular window there, allowing yourself to really release into the hips there. You can weave your hands around the left thigh and then bring the legs in close to you. Some of us, again, find it difficult because we've got to lift the torso off the floor to get to the legs, in which case you might find it easier to wrap the band around your leg and then bring the leg in close to you. And I give Carol Swift, who's on Facebook Live, full credit for that. She was the first person I noticed do that. And release in the legs. And we stretch the left leg up towards the sky, taking hold around the back of the thigh. Oh. Releasing into that hamstring. Keep the breath flowing, seeing if that eases a little. I've got to warn you, I can feel a sneeze coming on. So if it suddenly happens, don't be alarmed. It's threatening. And then releasing from there, take that left foot across the right knee, let the left knee fall open to the side. And then if you feel ready to, weaving the hands around that right thigh and easing the legs in close to you. So if you don't find the band any help, find a wall and allow yourself to just prop your other leg up on the wall. And then you can release and really release the torso and just shuffle yourself closer to the wall as you feel that the stretch starts to ease. So finishing off there, let's allow those feet to come onto the floor and we'll come into our shoulder bridge. So with the feet just hip distance apart and the knees bent, we'll let the arms rest down by our sides. Strength in the core, we'll push the lower back into the ground and we'll peel the spine away from the floor. When we get to that point where knees, hips and shoulders are in line with one another, we'll take a breath and then we'll float the vertebrae back down one by one. We'll press the lower back into the floor and we'll allow the pelvis to return back to neutral. And again, pushing the lower back into the floor, tipping the tailbone up, peeling the spine away from the ground. When you get to the top, if you feel you want to, the arms can lift up towards the sky or all the way over the head. Leave the arms there, we float the vertebrae back down, pressing the lower back into the floor, pelvis comes down and we return back to neutral spine. And allow the arms to come back by our sides. Taking a little abdominal curl up at the end there if you feel you want to. Breathing in as we float back down. And again, we push the lower back into the floor, we tip the tailbone up, we peel the spine away from the ground. Now, if you want to, we can add in those little leg lifts. So we get to that ski slope position, we give it a little bit extra stability through the bottom, and then we allow the leg to lengthen up to the sky. And it might be that just the heel lifts, and that's fine. Once we've done that on both feet, we'll lift the arms up towards the sky or all the way over the head. And then we're floating the vertebrae back down one by one. Start to notice if there are any parts of the spine that feel a bit sticky or a little bit stiff. Give those some extra breath and some extra time. Let the arms come back by our sides and we'll reach for the toes. And softening down. Two more like that. Pressing the lower back into the floor. Rolling up through the spine. So we're not clenched in the bottom. When we get to the top, our ski slope position, we don't want to be hyperextending through the rib cage, but we're dropping the rib cage into line with the knees and the hips. Then we can stabilise into the bottom. One leg lifts. You don't have to keep in time with me, by the way. You can take your own time in. And then those arms lift up and over the head. Pressing the lower back into the floor and we return back to neutral. Let the fingertips stretch towards the toes, shoulders glide down the back, head and shoulders lift away from the floor, nice tight squeeze through the tummy. This is our last one here. So if you feel you want to, when you get to the top of the shoulder bridge, we're going to allow that leg to lift. You can take that little circle, just like we did earlier. And then we'll float that foot down, we'll change over to the other side. Notice if you circle the leg, you're more likely to wobble through the hip. So we really want to keep the hip really nice and stable and still. Floating the foot down, arms reach up and over the head. And then we float the vertebrae back down one by one. And as we take this final one, let's allow ourselves to roll all the way up to sitting. And when we get there, we'll bring the feet together. We'll allow the knees to go wide. Shoulders glide down the back and we'll just ease into that stretch. I know this doesn't suit everyone, in which case you can take your legs wide if you prefer. Good, just easing down into the hips. And releasing from there. Let's bring ourselves into a crouch position, so we'll tuck the toes under. That's it. Gently rocking forwards and back. And then allowing yourself to come up to standing. We'll see if we can roll up through the spine. If you know that's not a way that suits you, come up in a way that suits you better. Pressing the heels into the ground, let the head be really heavy. Rolling up through the spine. And as the head comes on top, we'll take a nice deep breath, reaching really tall. Breathing out as we let it all go. Give it a good shake up. Give yourselves a round of applause. Well done, guys. Well done. So, Facebook Livers, thank you ever so much for taking the time to come and see me today, especially those of you that are reoccurring viewers. I really appreciate you putting this into your routine, and I hope it's really helping with your isolation. So I will see you soon. Take care.